Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to another solo epi. It's Michelle Wong here. Welcome. If you are brand new, thank you for tuning in. And if you are a returning listener, thank you. Love you so much. And another solo episode, which I'm loving. And I plan on bringing you more interviews next year, so stay tuned. Today is winter solstice. I'm recording this on Saturday, December 21st of 2019, and it is, the shortest day of the year, longest night of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And this today and just from here through the new year, the beginning of the new year, I should say, is really such a great time to sit back and review the year, looking at what went well, things that you're ready to release, and what do you want to invite for the upcoming year. And tonight I'm actually off to a winter solstice party, and part of the things that we have to bring for tonight is a list of basically everything that we're grateful for, and then a list of things that we're ready to release. And I actually don't know what is happening at this party besides, food and a little gift exchange and bringing these two lists. But what I did for my ready to release, I wrote it on a sheet of paper because we're either going to tear it up or burn it. That's my thought. And then my gratitude. So I have like a journal that I carry with me in my purse. And so I wrote gratitudes in there because that's something I just want to remember and carry with me. And honestly, when I look back to this year, I have so much to be grateful for. And if you haven't already done this exercise, feel free to do it with me. I'm going to read a few things that I'm ready to release this year, but I did want to highlight some of the things that I'm just so grateful for, which I've shared in past episodes, but really giving light to it. And I think one of the things that we can never overdo things that we can't ever overdo is gratitude, right? And really coming from a place of abundance rather than like desperation, if that makes sense. But with gratitude, the more we focus on with gratitude, the more the energy expands because we are noticing all the good that's already in our lives. And I cannot talk enough about gratitude. And that's one of the tools if people want to tap into more abundance, more success, more wealth, prosperity, is focusing on the good. And like strategy or not, it's something that is good anyway, because I know that when I tap into appreciation, gratitude, and just looking at all the abundance that's already there, like I just feel better, right? So it's not necessarily a strategy. It's just something that I think is really important to do because we're taking time to honor. And it's almost like it's a thank you, right? Thank you to the universe. And there's just so much around us. And it could be as simple as looking outside the window and seeing nature. Like that in and of itself is so beautiful. And we take that for granted so often, right? But what's really interesting is when I started writing my gratitude list, and I wrote gratitude for 2019 so far, right? Because there's still time left, right? There's still days left from now to the end of the year for even more good to happen. But what was interesting was that for 2019, I felt like for me, there was like a very clear distinction in 2019, and it was pre-injury and then post-injury. Everything that's happened post-knee injury, I don't know, it's almost like everything is sparklier and shinier. And maybe it was from my injury that I just really, really realized how much I have to be grateful for, but I was also went through a period of grieving. but especially for like all of the support that opened up, that I realized I had, and just even things like in-home physical therapy, and finding a really good in-home acupuncturist, like things like that, like who was affordable, and who lived like who was only 20 minutes away and actually practices and teaches at like the local, not even local, but one of the premier naturopathic and Chinese medicine schools in the country, and just so much to be grateful for. And so I wrote all the unfolding that's happened since then, since my knee injury, and all of the people that show up, right? So grateful for that, and really grateful for the opportunities that are opening for me with my one-on-one work, with my mentorship work, including human design and infusing astrology and leadership and confidence. Like everything is starting to align, and things got really clear after my knee injury. And then just grateful for even all of the things before, and it's so interesting. I'm just kind of like in a wow, like sitting in wow, right? And just like the people that have showed up in my life earlier this year, and just all of the, I guess, the seeds, right? The seeds that we plant. Sometimes we don't know how things will unfold and grow. But as we continue to plant seeds, I don't know, there's just so much to be said for that. So, yeah. And then my list for ready to release, and I'm going to read you some of the ones that I'm ready to release, because this is actually pretty vulnerable for me, but I feel like I think it's important to share, especially the lists of things that we're ready to release, because it makes you realize that you're not alone. You're not alone in any type of like thoughts that might be more negative, or, oh, I shouldn't have these thoughts, or shame of having these thoughts. I mean, we're all human. And I wanted to share, because this is a vulnerable list for me, and I think it's important, so that when you write your list of things that you're ready to release, like allow yourself to go there, because we are in the darkest day of the year, and we need to be willing to look at the shadow, right? Look at the things that are below, are not. Look at the things that are below. I was going to say below. That's not even a word. Below the surface, right? Into like the dark soil, the mulchiness, like the compost. And in Seattle, it's been raining buckets for the past 2 days, and it's still raining as I'm speaking right now. And I think there are some areas that are kind of flooding. And so like, it's just a really kind of like, weather-wise, it's kind of like gross, and people just want to stay home and get cozy, and like really like there's that turning inward type of energy. And so what I wrote, the first thing I'm ready to release, is judgment and resentment towards people who have not been supportive of me. And this was actually a huge one. The fact that I wrote that down was like, wow, like I feel sometimes resentful and judgy towards people who, like, I feel, and this could be my own story, of like people who don't really care whether or not I'm successful or not, or they rather see me not be successful, or, it's a lot of like that type of like dowdy low energy. And it's like, first of all, at the big scheme of things, it really doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter how they see me. I don't even know who these people are. I just have this sense that there are people out there who think this way. And so like they rather don't care. They don't care to support me, probably because I haven't heard from them. And it's okay, right? But the fact that I have judgment and resentment towards them, I wanted to write that out on paper, because I know that that's not something I really want to carry with me into 2020. And not saying that it's never going to pop up again, but it's like shining an awareness and light on it. Another thing I wrote is really like overthinking what's next, how to do things, second guessing myself, and playing small. I also wrote down like the shoulds that I feel like I have to do that actually don't align with me and interfere with my unique way of how I want to do things and how I want to build my business. So releasing the shoulds, worrying about money and business success, like let's just let that go. And then perfectionism in business, right? Wanting everything to be perfect before I show up. Attachment to expectations. I'm ready to let that go. And then releasing results, like releasing the results, and having these results affect the energy and opinion of my own value of what I have to offer, if that makes sense. So it's like, I put something out there and not letting the results of it determine how good something is, right? Because I can put something out there that's so incredible, so amazing. And if people don't buy it or whatever, or maybe a lot of people buy it, it should not reflect my own value, if that makes sense. So those are the items I wrote on my list. And that, I've written, this is not the first time I wrote a ready to release list for this year. But this list is actually, there's like a level even deeper than the first one I wrote back a few months ago. And so, yeah, and there's two things I wanted to share. So with expectations and perfection and in business and, am I good enough? Like all of that. It's so funny. I was talking to my acupuncturist, and if you caught me on one of my Facebook Lives or read one of my posts, this might not be new, but her and I were talking, and I was just sharing how, oh my gosh, like the doors have been opening and opportunities have been opening for me. And in a very short period of time, like I'll say in the span of like 3 days, opportunities have been opening up relating to my work with human design and leadership and confidence. And a part of me is so excited, like super stoked. And the other part of me is going into freak out mode. I'm like, oh my God, like am I ready? Am I good enough? Like, what if it's not good enough? What if I'm not meeting expectations? Like suddenly all this pressure I was feeling. And my acupuncturist, she was awesome. She was like, I'm going to give you a number and this will help you put things into perspective. And she said, for men, when they know 40% of something, they're just confident. They show up, they're like, yep, I'm ready. I'll figure out the rest. Like they're the shit, right? They're the bomb. 40%, right? Versus women don't feel like they're ready and confident until they know 98% of the information. That's a huge difference. That's 40% versus 98%. And I knew in my mind, men show up more confident, even if they don't know as much as, women do, but to actually hear the actual number, the percentage, I was like, holy moly, that's not what I said. I said, holy fuck, that is insane. Right. And I was like, no fucking way. What? First of all, 40% to me is a crazy, it's like, to me, it's not even enough, right? And these are men running their country and they're running it to the ground, right? Let's not talk about politics here, but come on, right? And then for women, I believe that when we show up, right, whether or not we feel ready, we already know more than 40%, right? That's just who we are, right? And so trust yourself and trust that you don't have to know everything in order to show up. And that just, when I heard that statistic, I was like, that whole acupuncture session, I was just on fire. I was like, not necessarily napping, but my mind was just going. And it's just own it. We need to just show up and not be afraid, and also understand that people, when they receive new information, if they're learning something new, they don't need all of 100% of what we know. Right? Less is more, bite-sized information, because it takes time to integrate information. So we don't have to know everything in order to give a presentation or to host a webinar or to give a talk, right? And let a conversation guide you, right? Let the questions guide you. And it's okay to show up and teach what you know as you're learning, because then you're really bringing people into the journey with you. But when she gave me that stat, I was like, holy moly. And this goes the same with reading a resume, right? When men look at a resume, if they know 40% of what's on that list, they're going to apply and they're going to get the job. And for women, when we look at a job description, a job description, we feel like we have to have 100% of the items on that, that job description bullet point before we are ready to apply. And that might be what she was referring to, but it's the same thing, right? So anyway, I wanted to offer that as an insight. If you ever feel like you're not ready, you are absolutely ready. 40%. Okay, so that was what I wanted to share. And then I did want to pull back, just circle back to the one of the items in my ready to release list, and that was the first one I shared, the judgment and resentment towards people who are not supportive of me. I'm ready to let that go because of human design. So when I learned human design and my energy type, I was like, oh, everything makes sense now. And even if I didn't know human design, like this item, like this bullet point item of what I'm ready to release, it would, I would still put on the list, but now there's just more awareness around why the craziness, why is it that some people have so much support, people love them, and then sometimes they feel like an odd duck, and it's like, oh, it's because of my energy. It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense now. My energy type is, my auric energy is just more selective, right? So when I offer something, when I put it out there, not everybody is meant to join me, and that is okay, right? It's a very selective, and that is how it's meant to be. And then the more I learned about my own chart and my own design, I was like, this all makes sense. And this is why sometimes when I walk into a room, I can feel like this kind of tension in a way, because people don't know how to approach me. Thank you, manifestor energy. And not to box manifestors into this, but I know of amazing manifestors who are shiny and sparkly and everybody wants to be around them, but there's more layers to it. And the more I know my own chart, there's just more awareness and clarity, and okay, this makes sense now. So there's nothing to resent or judge, right? It's just energy, and it's all good. It's all meant to be. So anyway, that was what I wanted to pop in and share. Little bite-size episode for you today. And so this, when you're hearing this, it's Christmas Eve, right? December 23rd. It's also Hanukkah. So happy Hanukkah and happy Christmas Eve. And if you are listening to this on the day that this episode is launched, tonight at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, I am hosting my Get Aligned, Lead Yourself, and Flow with Freedom in 2020 with Human Design webinar. So there is still space for that if you want to jump on. And then you can also, if you register, you'll get the recording, and that will be there until December 31st, so the end of the year. And so I'm just so excited. I've been putting the slides together and just really excited to shine more light, more clarity, and explain a few things around human design that you can really use to guide you in 2020 and beyond, right? And so I'll put links to the show notes, so that is available. And so I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and a happy, happy winter solstice, happy Hanukkah. And I will be back next week on the 30th. So stay tuned for that. And until then, I wish you the most blessed, the most holiest, the most everything with whatever you're doing, whether you're spending time with family, friends, or you're just soloing it out. Love you so much, and all the best to you. Take care. Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support. And take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.